Versus Mahomes was a rough week one for Lamar. Lost 2 fumbles in that overtime loss to Vegas. Things are not getting any easier this week. Lamar has struggled in the head-to-head matchups with Mahomes. Remember, just last year, he called his team his kryptonite. Probably a Superman reference. Here's Lamar on once again going up against the kings of the AFC.
It's not about, me and Mahomes. Not to me, probably to everyone else, but, it's the Ravens versus Kansas City Chiefs. They did beat us, 3 times or whatever, but that's in the past. We got a better opportunity this time to come around, and we take the advantage and win at our home stadium. But I'm not dwelling on those losses. We come Sunday night, and we're going to play.
So Fox Bet Sportsbook has the Chiefs favored by 3.5 points on the road Sunday night in this one. Mike Vick, you trust Lamar to get his first win versus Mahomes Sunday night?
I trust Lamar. I trust him for a couple reasons. Number one, Lamar just don't lose consecutive games, and he's been as good as any quarterback in the league, bouncing back from a loss. 2, he's always going to be one of the most competitive and athletic guys, on the field, especially at the quarterback position. The ball is in his hands, but I don't think this game is all about Lamar. When I look at the Baltimore Ravens defense, last week they did more than enough to win the game versus Vegas. They scored 27 points, and that's enough for the Baltimore Ravens defense, you would think. But, the thing that they're going to have to do is stop Travis Kelce. I think he's going to be the caveat. I think he's going to be the guy that if the Baltimore Ravens can't control him, he'll open it up for Patrick Mahomes and that Kansas City offense. And you just can't allow Patrick Mahomes to get comfortable. It's a rivalry for a reason, and it's turning into a rivalry for a reason. Lamar understands that, and it reminds me of my days when I played in Atlanta when we had to face the Philadelphia Eagles year in and year out, never could get over the hump. The reason why I never played in the Super Bowl or could win the NFC Championship game was because they always stood in my way. So this does feel like a must-win situation for the Baltimore Ravens. They don't want to get off to an 0-2 start. That's just not what we envisioned for them for the season.
And by the way, Baltimore, if people remember, last year when I was going through the Chiefs' schedule, I said, no, they'll lose to Baltimore. Like, their toughest game of the year is their game at Baltimore. They'll lose it. This year, I think potentially their toughest game is at Baltimore. And I think there is a way for the Ravens to beat Kansas City. And Lamar is a part of it, but he is not the majority of it. They just have to run the ball almost every play. And they weren't able to do that in their last matchup. They tried, and then they got out of it. The Chiefs' run defense has been its biggest weakness since Mahomes got there. The problem is, and the Browns game is an interesting case study in it, teams, even when they have the lead, get nervous. The Browns were running on first down, running on first down, running on first down, and controlling that game. Then the 75-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill happens, and how do the Browns respond? They pass on first down, or they attempt to. It's a Chris Jones sack. Now you're in 2nd and 17, drive over, and the game flips right there, far more so than it flipped on the muffed punt. It was that sack that flipped the game. And which is why I think it's important they don't look at this as Lamar, who only had 97 yards passing in their last matchup. They were down 2 scores most of the game. The previous matchup, they were down 2 scores most of the game. They can't look at it as Lamar has to outduel Mahomes. They have to look at it as we're just going to keep running at your weak run defense. The problem, Broussard, is actually, I think, potentially the other side of the ball for Baltimore. I think if Baltimore does that, they will have success on offense. I think they will have very few punts. I think they'll score points, and they have one of the 2 best kickers in football. The problem is they love to play this man-to-man blitzing defense. There is no defense in football Mahomes eats up more than that. They already lost Marcus Peters. They just lost another corner. Do they have the personnel to stop the Chiefs from scoring at will? So I think there's a scenario where Lamar plays well, where the Ravens score 30 points and lose. Because I think the defense is beat up, and I think the real story of the Lamar-Mahomes matchups has been the way Mahomes has beaten up the Ravens' defense more so than Lamar's individual struggles.
Yeah, look, I'm going to make this a trifecta because I do agree. I have confidence in Lamar to play well and to have a good game. Obviously, coming off the game with 2 fumbles, as Vic said, you know he wants to bounce back and play well, and I think he will. And I'm with you, Nick. I think they can have a strong running performance against that defense in Kansas City where they're very weak against the run. But they have not beaten the Chiefs in the last 3 games, all the 3 games Lamar started, and they had top 5 defenses at those times and still couldn't beat them. Now, I don't think their defense is nearly as good. Whether it's the injuries or whatever, their defense is not as good as it has been in the previous few years, and they still couldn't stop the Chiefs. So I do think if you run the football and you try to eat up clock, that's a good strategy, I believe, against the Chiefs. But the thing is, the Chiefs can score so quickly that they still can get a lead on you. And if they get a lead and now Baltimore's playing from behind, you're going to have to throw the ball some, Nick. And that's where they could struggle. So I just think that the Ravens' inability, like the 2 of you said, their inability to stop the Chiefs is what's going to be their downfall, not so much Lamar struggling.
So, Mike, do you think Lamar is in danger of playing a subpar game because he's trying to do too much? That he knows the Chiefs are his kryptonite, that Mahomes is 3-0 against them. If the Chiefs get out to an early lead, that he starts trying to make things happen. Like last game, he stayed in the pocket a little bit. At the end of the game, got stripped. He had a good, he probably had an 8-yard run, tries to turn it into a 10-yard run, dives forward, gets the ball knocked out. Do you think that patience, like Lamar's patience, might be an Achilles heel here as he tries to will a beaten up and battered Ravens team to victory?
Yeah, well, while sometimes you don't become naive to the things that's going on the other side of the ball, and I think Nick said it best, Lamar's going to have to do his part, and that's about all he can do. He get paid to do a job as a quarterback. That's control the offense. That's run the ball when he can. That's pass the football around the yard. But when he looked on the other side, and as he watched film or think back to what happened last week, he's seen his defense get put in some critical situations in terms of the scheme. They was playing a lot of man coverage, doing a lot of blitzing and leaving guys on the island. That's a success. That's an opportunity for other teams to have big plays and successful plays going down the field. And guys are only human. You can't run around all day, on the field. Sometimes you got to preserve that energy, play a little zone. You got to mix it up. When guys are being ran down the field and other teams are stretching the field and putting them in positions where they're going to come back and be tired and then try to go at them again on the next play, that's not on the offense. That's on the defense. So I think defensively, they got to scheme up to play a little zone, not as much man, because the Kansas City Chiefs receivers will run past them all day and tire them out. So on defense, they got to preserve their energy and be better.
Mike, I want to ask you one more question, because this is a point Wilds brought up Tuesday morning when we were discussing the Ravens-Raiders game. And that is the amount of jeopardy that Lamar is put in on a play-to-play basis. With the receiving core beat up the way it is, with the running back room, you're down your top 3 guys from a month ago, you're bringing guys off the street. The Ravens' plan seemed to be a lot of it, Lamar, figure it out. Their offensive line had a brutal game. And Lamar, to his credit, I know he had the fumbles, but he did make some sensational plays. But anyone watching that game was like, oh, this reminds me of something I saw around 20 years ago when the playing in Atlanta at times seemed to be, all right, we've got something drawn up, but it's probably going to end up being Mike, figure it out. At some point, does that take almost a mental toll along with the physical toll? So you're getting hit more than any other quarterback in the league, but you also know on a play-to-play basis, our plan B is really plan A, which is I'm going to have to do something spectacular. Like, how much do you think that weighs on Lamar, set aside the injury risk it puts him, it makes him susceptible to?
Yeah, man, it's just a lot of pressure on Lamar coming into a game to run and pass, and that's unfortunate. He can't relax and be comfortable and play his game. while we've seen an offense that looks different, we've gotten accustomed to it, but that offense has put Lamar in harm's way on a consistent basis. And what Greg Roman has to do is continue to open things up and stretch the field. Like, I understand quarterback draws here and there, a couple quarterback counters that you can mix in just to give the defense a different look. It's a different scheme, but, you know, the onus is not on Lamar, man. Lamar can't be put in harm's way. I think his job is to come in and just pass the football to the best of his abilities, make plays in the run game, and not make the scheme too difficult. They got every chance to win this game. They did more than enough last week to win, and I just think this is on the defense this week. It'll be a statement game for them.
Oh, best laid plans when it comes to what they want Lamar to do. We'll see. We are back talking about the New York Giants. Boy, those L's keep piling up.